Hey there, in this video we're going to prototype this floating label interaction in Figma that also includes the blinking cursor. So here we are in a new Figma file, and I have a totally blank canvas. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my frame tool, and I'm going to draw out a frame that's going to serve as the text input. So I'll just draw out a frame, and I'm going to give this frame a width of 384 pixels and a height of 48 pixels. And in case you're wondering where I got these numbers from, these are just typically the dimensions I use for inputs in my designs and projects, so feel free to adjust these based on your personal preference. These just happen to be the height and width I typically use in my project. And then the next thing is, this is important, we want to make sure that clip content is unchecked. And the reason we want this unchecked is once we take our label and position it absolute or ignore auto layout, if clip content was still checked on, that top portion of our label will be cut off as soon as we move it to the top, since that top portion would be outside the bounds of our frame. So we want to make sure that clip content is unchecked so that we can see the entire text of our label. So now continuing on down, I'm going to give it a 5 pixel corner radius, and I'm going to give it a 1 pixel center stroke. And I'll give this a color of 09365D, which is a navy color. And I'll go ahead and draw out a swatch of that real quick so I can easily grab it for the text. So 09365D. So now going back to this frame 1, I'm going to give an auto layout horizontal. And I'm going to make sure that 384 is fixed at 384 and that 48 is fixed at 48. So we want these always to be 384 and 48. Then I'm going to align it center left. The space between the horizontal gap isn't really important because the only real child element will be one text element at a time. For the situations where we have multiple text elements, the other one would always be positioned absolute, so it's not going to affect the other text element. So the space between, I'll just leave it at 10. And then for left and right padding, I'll give it 12. And top and bottom 12 as well. Then I'm going to select the text tool, and I'm going to write out the label we're going to use. So I'm going to use your name, but you can do your name, your email address, your phone number, etc. So I'm going to write out your name, and I'm going to use enter regular. I'll make this 16, give it a line height of 100% or 1 dash. And we'll give it that same color of 09365D. And then I can drag that your name label into our auto layout frame, and we can see it positions it perfectly. So I'm going to rename this frame as step 1. And then with step 1 selected, I'm going to drag out a duplicate copy. So I'm going to hold down Option on the Mac and drag one right below it. And this will become step 2. And now in step 2, we're going to take this your name and we're going to resize this. So we'll go with something like 12 or 10. I'll go with 10. Leave the line height at 100%. And then we're going to position it absolute. So up at position, we're going to ignore auto layout. And we'll leave it at the 12. And then holding shift, I'll just drag it up. So it's somewhere in the center of that border line. So maybe -6 seems like it's good. So I'll do it -6. And now this works best when it's on a white background since we have a white input. So you'll also notice that the border stroke of our input is crossed through the label. So I'm going to add in a rectangle that's also going to be positioned absolute. That's going to be behind the text that says your name. And it's basically just going to serve as a way to block out that line, that border. So that way it looks like the your name and that background is above that border. So we see this has a width and height of 52 by 10. So I'm going to go down to the rectangle tool and I'll draw out a rectangle that has a width of 52 and a height of 10. Position it absolute, and I'll move it here and I'll align it so it's right at the same size of the same portion, the same area as our text. So I'll line up those red X's that Figma gives me so I can see it's all lined up. And I can move this rectangle to on top, and then I can give it a background color of white. And this might be a little too tight with the borderline, so I'll select my rectangle 2, and instead of 52, we'll go something like 54, and I can just move it so it's to the center, so something like that. So we have a little bit of breathing room around the your name. So now that we have the start of our floating label, we can select step 2, and I'm going to create a duplicate of this, and this is going to be the first part of our blinking cursor. So I'm going to hold down Option, and I'm going to drag another duplicate. It becomes step 3, and now I'm going to select my text tool, and I'm going to write out, and I'm going to use the bar key, so that is Shift /, and I'm going to make sure that that is enter regular. I want it to be 16, like the your name, and I'll give it that same navy color. And then I can put it into my auto layout, and it takes the place of where your name was. And then with step 3 selected, I'm going to duplicate it once more, and this will be the version that has it blinking out so you don't see it, so that way where it's hidden. So I'm going to hold down Option once again and create step 4, and then with that text of the vertical bar selected, I'll just hide it with the eyeball icon. So now that we have all 4, I can select all 4 of these steps. So now that I have all 4 steps selected, I'm going to go at the top here for the components. And where it says create component, I'm going to go to this drop down, and I'm going to create a component set. And now we can set up our interactions. So starting with this step 1, I'm going to go to prototype. I'm going to set up interaction, and that's on click of step 1. We're going to change to step 2. I want it to be smart animate, ease in and out, and I know sometimes it doesn't show that well in video, so I'll make this 650 ms. And then we'll go to step 2, and we'll create interaction, and we'll say step 2, after a delay of 200 milliseconds, change to step 3. We want it to be instant. Then we'll go to step 3. We'll create interaction. We'll say after a delay of 300 milliseconds this time, action will be changed to step 4, smart animate, linear 300 milliseconds. Close this. And then finally, we'll select step 4, interaction, after delay of 300 milliseconds, action will be changed to step 3, because we're going back, smart animate, 300, linear. So close out of that. And then I can draw out a frame, and we'll just make this a desktop frame. And I can drag the step 1 of my component. So hold Option and drag it somewhere in this frame. And then I can go in preview. So I'll go in present. And I can click. And there you go. We have our floating label interaction with the blinking cursor. So there you go. Hope this helps in your projects. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.